Welcome back. Episode 3 of the Crypto Parabellum podcast with your hosts, Jared Phillips, Alan Eschweiler, and third host, introducing special guest host, episode 3, Joel Birch. Joel, welcome.
Hi.
Nice. Strong
Thanks
open.
for having me. Good to be here. I'm really excited.
Strong open.
You should run me through the rules in regards to language. There's a certain way that I communicate. I orate.
Alan doesn't swear because Alan's all nice and good like. He keeps us closer to the PG-13, and I do. So those are typically how the rules work.
Good to know.
But it's your call, my guy. You can do as you see fit. But I was going to run through our topics, which I certainly will, but I kind of forgot the part where, we kind of introduce you. So you want to take like 30 seconds, talk about who you are and joining and all that. We've talked about you before. I've talked about you before, but give us like 30 seconds on Joel.
Yeah, sure. Easy to do. I've been in crypto and in the industry for a long time, since 2015. I've really positioned myself mostly on Twitter at Bitcoin Birch. So that's usually where you'll find me musing. Haven't been super active lately because I'm also the CEO and co-founder of Stacked, which is an SEC registered crypto asset manager. Alan is the COO of that org. So we work very closely together, and that is proving to be a lot of time. So Twitter and podcasts and gaming and all that other stuff has had to take a little bit more of a backseat lately. But over the course of the last half decade, I've definitely been around and met many of your favorite people and traveled the world to go to crypto conferences, that sort of stuff. So definitely fully ingrained.
So the best part of Joel joining us is we talked about in the first episode or the second episode, I can't remember. I think it was the first, the dichotomy of this podcast being the builder versus the trader. And myself being more on the building side, Jared being more on the trading side. Now officially the builders outnumber the traders. And so, I'm excited about that. I think the quality of content is going to 10x because we have just twice as many builders. And I started my game in crypto wanting to be a trader, which is something that everybody listening to this podcast can resonate with. The desire to come in and utilize this ecosystem to generate a profit, find alpha, arbitrage, etc. And I spent years as a full-time trader with no job and no business and nothing but trading. So I can definitely speak to that life as well, and why I hated it and why I'll never go back.
It's a different game. It's a different game. And the thing is, I went to trading in crypto versus trading equities and futures because I find it to be far easier, but it does suck and make you want to pull your hair out. Anyway, we'll come back to that numerous times as this thing rolls on. But it's going to be a hell of an episode. Because what a week. Alan, we started this just kind of arbitrarily. Like, we were just like, let's just get going. It's summer, might as well. And I feel like every single week we have just gotten news-packed things happening. So this week, I'm looking at our list. We have 7 things that I think are all heavily newsworthy. But you have to start with the Treasury and OFAC sanctioning Tornado Cash. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about BlackRock partnering with Coinbase, which I think has massive implications long-term for crypto to the good side, although maybe not in the best way possible, And then another week, another hack, right? Slope Wallet on Solana gets hacked. This is actually somewhat personal for me. The largest individual victim of this is a friend of mine, a person who's in the Stacked Labs Telegram room, the number one victim in that hack. And the way that they were hacked was absolutely asinine. So I want to talk about that, get your guys' thoughts, because I think that it is the most egregious way for something to have gotten hacked. And I put notes in it. Hopefully you guys read it. But let's start here. So this news rolls down, and I want to set up Tornado Cash. You guys already know, but I'm going to set it up for everybody else. So yesterday, the news breaks the Department of Treasury comes out that they're targeting not addresses per se, but they're targeting an application. They're going to target anybody who uses Tornado Cash to be illegal. You can't use it anymore. Anybody who touches Tornado Cash, any cryptocurrencies that touch Tornado Cash, you are now liable to be sanctioned. Okay? So much so that already Circle, who is US based, right, had to freeze $75,000 in USDC right away because
75 million.
One of the okay, was
right?
it?
I
don't know.
I saw a different number.
It might have been millions, but the point is money immediately, and the reason for that is, and it's the implication: 75,000, 75 billion, 750 million. Because the point is, if they don't, they're now liable to jail time. Okay, not just like, hey, fines, but you are now interacting with criminals. So they're forced to freeze USDC, which we all looked at as like the grail, right? If you're an American. And there's so much that goes into that. So, Alan, let me start from there and go to you.
So I think it's worth maybe just calling out who Circle is, in case that isn't clear to anyone listening. Circle is the issuer of USDC. They are a US-based company. They've sort of positioned themselves as the alternative to Tether, and been really, really successful doing that. I think they've been around for a really long time. They've sort of tried a couple things before landing on stablecoin, but they've been, you can't argue with the fact that they've been incredibly successful with USDC. It's had a ton of adoption, especially for US users. It is the stablecoin of choice. For clarity, they did freeze $75,000 worth of USDC, and so that is a fairly small amount. The $75,000 was linked to 44 different addresses. And so if I'm not sure how that averages out, but if you just took it as a straight number, it's like $2,000 per address. That's very small. But I think the important part of all of this, and we've seen it every single episode now that we've done here, is we've had some type of regulatory action every week for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. For 3 weeks. We're not talking 3 months. We're not talking 3 years. 3 weeks, progressively more.
And it's my opinion that this will continue. I think there's probably a lot going on, and I think we talked about this last week, behind the scenes that is not yet public or known by me or anybody else. Inquiries generally aren't broadcasted, right? Like no one wants to advertise the fact that they are being looked into. And so I think we'll probably see more and more roll out. But I wanted to call out a quote, if I could read just a small excerpt from Coin Center. And Coin Center is an organization that does quite a bit of political lobbying and advocacy for, I would say, crypto in general, not just blockchain, not just Bitcoin, but for crypto in general. So this is a statement from Coin Center. Bear with me as I sort of read through it. I think it's important. I'm going to skip the majority of this, but I think there's a really important part here. And they comment, as such, today's actions do not seem so much a sanction against a person or an entity with agency. It appears instead to be the sanctioning of a tool that is neutral in character and can be put to good or bad uses like any other technology. It is not any specific bad actor who is being sanctioned, but instead it's all Americans who may wish to use this automated tool in order to protect their privacy while transacting online, who are having their liberty curtailed without any benefit of due process. I think that's a really strong statement, and that is one that I think is fair, but I also want to talk about or propose the other side of it, which may not be the most popular opinion here. I think most people in crypto believe in the idea of privacy or, unbanking yourself, right? You can sort of go down the line of catchphrases, but I think most people agree with that in crypto. However, I think this is an opportunity for us to walk a very fine line. If you want general good legislation to be passed, things like this are necessary. I understand that they're not comfortable. I understand that they're not popular, but they are necessary because it's easy to sort of write off U.S. actions. I think sometimes people in crypto will say, crypto's global. I don't care what the SEC is doing. I don't care what the U.S. is doing. I don't care what the Treasury is doing. Do not fall into that pitfall of intellectual thinking because it is not intellectual. The vast majority of crypto value and crypto activity happens inside the U.S. Whether it is disclosed as inside the U.S. or not, I believe that is within the U.S. And so if you want crypto to be widely adopted and you want companies to be able to continue to innovate, you do have to sort of grin and bear some of the actions, this being one of them, that you may not like, but you have to take it if you want the overall sort of good outcome.
Yeah. And Joel, I'm gonna jump into you for a second. It literally just occurred to me because I was thinking about some of the feedback I've received on the podcast so far, and it's a lot of people that are, even though we're trying to be crypto 202 or 302 or 402, there's a lot of people that are kind of new into crypto that are listening to us, which is great. I like it. A lot of people probably don't know what Tornado is, and I guess I didn't really touch on that. So I don't know, Joel, do you want to explain it? You want me to explain it?
Yeah, I mean, I can take a quick second.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's a mixer. Right. So to put it in the most simple terms, an end user can send $100 of any crypto asset, pretty much, into it's an Ethereum. It's on the Ethereum protocol, but that includes wrapped Bitcoin, things like that. You can transfer, let's say, $100 in. It mixes that $100 up across different addresses, and it can spit $100 out the other side. And when someone tries to track that $100 on the other side, it goes into this mixer, so you can't see where that $100 originated from. It just came from the smart contract, this mixer, if you will.
Yeah. So essentially, we all put in $100. Everybody can see our public ledgers. It mixes all that up, spits it back out, and we now have pieces. If there was only 3 of us doing it, I would have 12% of mine, 38% of Alan's, the rest of it from Joel, whatever. It would mix it all up. So if you have tens of thousands of people doing it, or millions or whatever, it essentially allows you to maintain anonymity. Easy for me to say. So I have some thoughts on this, but Alan, I'm sorry, Joel, like when you hear this, Alan says that it has to happen. Like, talk to me about this action in your view. I mean, you're the most OG crypto guy here.
I mean, I'd love to play the advocate as well. So I'll actually argue against my own best interest oftentimes. Alan knows that. We both tend to do that, actually. And so I'll just stress that currently, just right now, there's over $430 million in assets in Tornado Cash smart contracts. That's a lot of Ethereum, a lot of stable coins, a lot of wrapped Bitcoin that eventually, when they come out of Tornado, are going to be blacklisted. Those assets are blacklisted. So even though, let's say, USDC has only froze $50,000 or $70,000 today, eventually all that $430 million belongs to someone, and they're going to have to try to get it out. What's probably going to happen is, because they're not going to be able to send that money to Coinbase, Gemini, Kraken, you name it, because all of these blacklists, they're not going to be able to send it to Stacked or whatever the case may be. They're going to go to DeFi protocols, and they're going to pull the liquidity, right? That's where they're going to have to dump that. And then the current liquidity providers on these DeFi protocols are going to be holding the bag for those blacklisted assets. That becomes a bit of a problem, because now if you're a liquidity provider, a major liquidity provider on a DEX, you don't want to be a liquidity provider today, because you don't want to take that risk. So then we start to lose liquidity. If we start to lose liquidity and people want to go to sell, the price is going to go down faster.
That's right. Yeah.
There's this cascading effect that remains to be seen. Fortunately, we're talking about $400 million, which in the grand scheme of crypto is not even a day's volume on any centralized exchange. So all that to say, my thoughts on Tornado Cash is, one, I've been in crypto a long time, transacted millions of dollars, never once needed to use Tornado Cash or used it. Mm-hmm. So when I think about the privacy aspect, like the actual just fundamental argument, I'm in favor of doing what we need to do to ensure that we're not funding terrorism, child trafficking, etc. And the actual reality is, laundered funds, not just crypto, obviously, mostly cash, in fact, but laundered funds is what runs that world, that bad, seedy world that I'm not in favor of, that no sane person is in favor of. And this particular protocol, this particular tool, rather, smart contract tool, is definitely mostly being used to obfuscate the financial transaction. I understand privacy. I get all that. That can be maybe there are other ways to get privacy in crypto without washing your assets.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. We have to be, and I think the industry should be honest with itself that what is Tornado Cash's primary use? It is not
Hackers.
an average. Exactly. It's
How
not
did any
an
of you
average-
ever hear about Tornado Cash? It was the media saying hackers stole $850 million and then sent it to Tornado Cash. And you're like, wait, what? And every time there was a hacker article that came out, it was talking about how they sent that money to Tornado Cash.
Now, I think what Coin Center is doing is they're trying to play defense and draw a line in the sand, saying they may or may not agree with Tornado Cash. My guess is they don't love Tornado Cash, and so they feel like this is the line that they have to defend, because if Tornado Cash can be sanctioned, then what else could be sanctioned? And so they want to prevent the what else or the snowball. I get that, but I don't think this is the fight. I don't think you're going to get a lot of support from either side, from either party, and any of the legislators on, making this the hill that you die on. And so I would like to see the industry not make this the hill that they die on. I understand that is not going to be a popular opinion, but what I would say is crypto tends to stray towards this ultra libertarian view, which I can sympathize with, and I think has its merits, but this is not one of them. Do not make this the hill that you die on is my recommendation.
So I don't think that will happen. And I have kind of 2 points to that, or two things to say down that line for why I don't think that'll happen. The first one is, I think they kind of missed the point in this ruling, because yes, I saw an article on CNBC about this. I added it to our show notes a little late. It's the last one, but blacklisting a protocol is interesting because you can fork a protocol today, right now. Mm-hmm. And it can be done easily. Yep. And all of a sudden another one's up. Like I guarantee you one's up already. Okay, I guarantee one's up. Yep. Now, you need to have users for it to gain steam, because you got to have people using it for it to have critical mass, or else you're mixing with yourself and it doesn't matter. Like I remember someone tried to launch a mixer on Binance Smart Chain, and everyone's like, "Who's going to mix on CZ Chain? Like he controls all the outs. Like why would you even do that? It doesn't. That's redundant. It doesn't make sense." And then people are like, "It's funny," and it went away. So like literally, like I don't think it's worth dying on that hill, but like with how slow the government moves, like Tornado Cash has been used for this for 3.5 years, and they just shut it down. Like maybe it'll be quicker to do it, but like they'll pop another one up. I did notice yesterday, I saw a tweet that like allegedly the GitHub repositories of contributors to Tornado Cash were taken down. So they were trying to like stop that forking process, which is interesting. Now those guys may have done it themselves to just like stop themselves from being blacklisted, to be like, hey, I don't want to be seen as the guy that contributed to Tornado Cash. Yep. So I find that interesting. Now, interestingly, I've never used Tornado Cash. I thought about it, and let me tell you why. Obviously, I run a stream. I've got 500 followers, whatever, a bunch of people that ask me about my positions. One guy identified my wallet fairly easily. It's a pain in the ass to switch your wallet. Mm-hmm. But he was literally like, hey, man, I saw you hold X amount of dollars in UST. Yep. Before all that stuff happened. And I was like, man, that's kind of messed up. And he's like, oh, I saw you got out. You only lost 2%. Good for you. And I'm like, I don't really appreciate the fact that you were watching my wallet like that. And so like now I have to go through transaction fees and whatever to go through to obfuscate and now I didn't. Right. I was just like, whatever, I guess it is what it is. And like, it's screwed up. Like I would never tell somebody I found your wallet and like, I'm doing that. But like, I guess that's the beauty and the ugliness of crypto. It's all public. Like anybody can find it. If you talk about your positions, which I do on my stream, then like people can be like, all right, Jared says he owns this, this, and this. Let me go look. Like that's part of a public ledger, right?
Well, we're a little hypocritical though, because we all love Nansen. And so we love watching other people's wallets. But if someone's watching
anonymous wallets, I'm not like, Ellen's wallet,
they're marked. Messi's wallet. Like they're definitely.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was going to say I've made more money watching other people's wallets than any of my own IDs.
There's a strong argument to be made for the ability to have privacy when conducting activities inside the ledger. It doesn't have to be a public ledger. Private ledgers can exist. I don't hold any secret network tokens or have any real affiliation with the
Yeah.
protocol. But that's one example of of an Ethereum tool that's designed to give you that privacy. There's plenty of examples. It's not just trading, right? There's sending there's
Moneta.
yeah, well, there's like let's just talk about like a legal example, client attorney, example where you're sharing a document and it's an NFT, not a fucking picture of a monkey, but an actual non-fungible asset in sometime in the future when there's actually use for that. And you're using,
right.
There's going to be need for, everything can't be on a public ledger.
Right.
We have to have a solution. We have to have a private ledger solution, but it's not a mixer. There's a difference between having some solution for privacy and the sole purpose of the tool being send us your money. We'll just mix it all up, literally called a mixer, like a laundry machine. Mixing.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I totally get that. Now here's my last worry, and then we'll move on because we've been on this for 20 minutes. I think it's interesting. I think it's intriguing. I think this goes a lot of different places from here, and so we'll keep tabs on this because I think it's going to continue to evolve. So I guess it's two things. I lied. One, Infure and Alchemy are blocking access to Tornado Cash. So if you don't know how to get around RPCs, which is what most 99% of users, even in the decentralized world, use. So essentially, if you use someone to redirect your access to different dApps, you no longer can, which is wild. So that's taking us off of decentralized into centralization, which is crazy because that's what I use. I use Alchemy. But here's what I'm more concerned about, and I want you guys. I'm curious your thoughts on this, right? So we have the Office of Foreign Assets Control are now looking at addresses that have touched Tornado Cash.
Yep.
Okay. Is it too far of a stretch to say if you have an address that ever touched Tornado Cash, that went back to an address, that then went to an off-ramp, whether that be Coinbase or whatever, that then went to an account, that then went to you, is there enough of a window now, if at any point in your history you ever did that, can they bust down your door and take a look at everything you've ever done?
My guess is probably, and the way that I think that would work is you could go to the exchange, maybe give a TX, say, I want the identity of the account holder, that deposited there. The exchange would be compelled to provide it. They would probably, it depends who it is, but I would say anyone in the U.S. would give it up. Anyone not in the U.S. would fight it and then probably give it up. But yeah, my guess is probably.
Wow. Right?
Well,
2019.
I actually think
right.
So couldn't you theoretically be a bit nefarious here? So let's say you are. First of all, let me go back to your original point where the main tornado.cash or whatever the URL was got taken down and blocked. Okay, well, anyone that's using Tornado Cash that is a hacker is sophisticated enough to access the protocol without some, front end.
Right.
Okay, so you're only limiting
RPC block.
You're only limiting probably 90% of the fine traffic, the traffic that you probably don't mind. Okay, so leave that part aside. Now we're sort of talking about what happens next. I think that the exchanges will turn over that information, and could you not, this is now a question that I have, could you not, if you are nefarious and you have an address with blacklisted Tornado Cash assets, what would prevent me from, let's say I am blacklisted, sending some to Joel and now he's blacklisted or under investigation, and it's like nothing to do with this. It's someone just randomly sent this to me.
That's probably the most valid concern.
Is it now Joel's burden of proof to say, I don't know who that is, I don't know where that came from, it's just randomly landed in my wallet? So if you were a hacker and you wanted to complicate sort of an investigation, why would you not send,
Elon's got a public wallet, send it to him.
Yeah. Right. That's the most legitimate concern that exists, because right now they're trying to put an existing solution on this new problem, right? Like some old OG solution to monitoring traditional financial asset classes. They need to come up with something new. This was an aggressive nuclear option is how I've read it, right? Like they literally dropped a nuke. This is the worst thing that they can do to be as aggressive as possible. As far as you've seen people selling hundreds of millions, billions of dollars of unregistered securities to unaccredited investors, rug pulling, etc., and getting fines. This is except $1,000 go to prison. So this is like next level nuke. And the way that the actual current rules are written is exactly that. If I sell something to Alan and he pays me in crypto, perfectly legal activity, he sends me $1,000. I'm just your Bob next door, getting my $1,000 in ETH, and then I send it to my Coinbase. And now what? Now all of a sudden, Bob is really up shit's creek based on the way that the rule is currently written, and there's no way for Bob to know any better. So this is stuff that's going to have to be worked out, and thankfully we have the coin centers of the world, but this is stuff that has to be worked out. It's sticky.
It's just super fucked. I guess it's going to have to happen. The situation that you guys just talked about has to happen to somebody famous, to somebody high profile, for it to be explored at the highest level for us to get to the next page. And by the way, as someone who very publicly, because I shared and obviously with you two very closely, was hacked and all of my money went through a mixer. Let's see this thing explored, man. Give me my money back. Like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, do I have hope now? Can they go pursue these cats that took my money to Turkey and India? Can I get that money back?
That I can't answer. I'm not sure. You'll need to contact the Tornado Cash customer support.
I guess
I'm not sure about that.
We'll see what I can do.
I think we should move to another topic here, which was absolutely massive in the last 7 days, and that is BlackRock partnering with Coinbase. So maybe I'll set this one up and pass it to you guys for commentary, and we'll flip the script for once. But this is interesting. So first, like personal disclosure, I own Coinbase stock. I had no idea this was coming, so I was very pleasantly surprised.
Oh shit!
And okay, so let's talk about what this partnership actually is. So BlackRock is obviously I believe the largest asset manager in the world. Correct me if I'm wrong there. But
you are.
They now will be offering liquidity through Coinbase to crypto assets, but specifically on their Aladdin platform. So their Aladdin platform, what that is really used by two different groups of professionals. One is institutions will use Aladdin. They have a ton of different offerings, but a big part of it is data and API aggregation. So that's for institutions. The other side of it are personal, asset managers or wealth advisors. So if you're a wealth advisor, you can partner or use Aladdin as sort of your back office, I suppose is maybe the right word for it, and offer now crypto to your clients. So I did a little bit of digging into Aladdin because this is something I don't use or haven't been exposed to. On the asset manager side, there are 55,000 wealth advisors in the US that use Aladdin. So I think the really cool part about this is that now if you are a client of any of those 55,000 wealth advisors or wealth managers, you now have access to offer your clients crypto. I think that is huge because it gives the wealth manager a question to answer. So I think in the past, when clients have gone to their wealth managers and they said, "Hey, what's this crypto thing?" It's been easy or an acceptable answer to say, "I don't know, don't focus on that. What are your long-term goals? Let's get back to that mutual fund of yours." You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now, I think as digital assets become a larger part of the mainstream, that answer from a wealth advisor is no longer acceptable. And so BlackRock says, "Hey, we have 55,000 advisors that are getting asked." And you have to imagine you get, 10 questions a day between all of those advisors. We should have an answer for them. So I think this is great for Coinbase. It's good for BlackRock. It's good for crypto in general. So maybe I'll leave it there and pass it over to you, Jared, because I think you had some thoughts on this partnership.
Yeah, I think that this is you saw a pump in crypto. You saw a pump in Coinbase. And oh, by the way, I'm not sure if you know this, Alan. You probably do if you check your notifications. Guess who has earnings today?
Is it Coinbase?
Coinbase. So Coinbase has earnings today, so they're going to talk about this, and they're going to talk about this partnership. They have to. It'd be the dumbest thing in the world for them not, about what they're anticipating the implications for this to be. And so maybe we touch on this again next week. But this might be the most overlooked thing because we've had so much going on. I mean, people saw it, and there was a jump in stock, and there was kind of a jump in crypto, but it was a pump. You need these jumps on
a
the
massive
way down
jump
anyway.
In the stock. Like, let's clarify that. It's up 80%. And you know, side note, but I won't go too far off track here. That one of the largest holders of Coinbase was ARK, and they sold the bottom. They sold the bottom,
which is amazing.
Yep. Unbelievable.
And so I sort of wonder. So Coinbase had a lot of downward pressure because of the news about the SEC, alleging that 7 or 9, I think it was 7 of their assets are securities. And so I wonder if Coinbase was sort of holding on to this news. This isn't something that just happens overnight. They didn't get a call from BlackRock 2 weeks ago and suddenly they're announcing this.
Oh God,
this has been cooking for a long time, probably a couple quarters. And so a very convenient time to sort of release this news, a week before earnings. I'm interested in seeing sort of the forward guidance of this because my understanding is this partnership utilizes Coinbase Prime, which any of you that have been involved in crypto for a long time, it's probably a confusing name heritage. Coinbase Prime was first GDAX, then it was Coinbase Prime, now it's Coinbase Pro. They use the Coinbase Prime name now for their institutional offerings. So the fees are not what you experience on the retail side. They're very low, especially when you get to high volume. So what I'm interested to see is the forward guidance on how this impacts revenue. And then also how BlackRock through Aladdin gives institutions or wealth managers what kind of fees are involved there. That's what I'm interested to see.
Yeah, so obviously that directly impacts Coinbase, right? So that's like if you are a Coinbase stockholder, that's what I'm interested in. That's what will be intriguing long term from a Coinbase perspective. Obviously, for your business, for both of y'all's business, like that has implications just long term. But I'm interested because we've been all waiting for crypto market cap to kind of find crypto's overall market cap to find its bottom, right? And where's the bottom going to be? We know what the bottom was after 2017. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head. We can go pull it up in a moment. But like, what's it going to be this time? What's the higher low going to be? Because if you look in that press release that I sent you guys from the Financial Times, right? They're only offering Bitcoin right now, right? They're not offering anything else. So a lot of people were like, oh shit, BlackRock and Coinbase, go buy Shiba Inu because they're, all these guys are going to be selling their clients Shiba Inu. Like, no, okay? No. They're going to be offering Bitcoin. I imagine they'll one day offer Ethereum. But so like, what is this going to do for the overall crypto market cap? These are the sorts of things that have to happen for us as an industry to take the next step forward. Okay. You need to have ways for financial advisors to get the right information to investors to put their money into it. I was a guest on a podcast yesterday that will be out in a couple of days called the Value Stack Podcast. And he's a Bitcoin maxi, okay? Super good dude. And like, it was good to have me on. I was like, I'm not going to say what you want me to say. Like, I'm not, hey, Bitcoin's end all be all. Like, I kind of tore into him a little bit because my issue is Bitcoin education is garbage. It is. Like, Bitcoin education is trash. They do a terrible job about positioning themselves. There's so much infighting. It's terrible. And like, is this the galvanizing force of like talking about what Bitcoin could and should be in the commodity gold investing space where someone's driving it like BlackRock that finally provides us as a crypto industry the base layer we need to take the next step forward? And that's what gets me pumped up about all of this.
I can give you my opinion on why I think they probably started with Bitcoin, and it has to do with Fidelity's offering in the 401ks. So Fidelity, 4 or 5 months ago, announced their intention to allow employer plans to include Bitcoin only in 401ks, in company-sponsored 401ks. And they got immediate pushback from Capitol Hill. Elizabeth Warren was sort of jumped immediately down their throat around that. My guess is that BlackRock saw that because they've been working on this for 2 quarters or so. They saw that and they said maybe they were considering more assets and they said, let's dial this back. But my guess is that they looked to the past to sort of guide their decision making in the future. And they said, hey, Fidelity got enough flack just for offering Bitcoin. Let's just stick to that for now, and we'll expand from there. I think that though, Jared, to your point around Bitcoin education, it now gets better because now BlackRock or Aladdin, more so in this case, has an entire team that focuses on education for their 55,000 advisors that use that product.
Right.
They're going to put out information on this being Bitcoin. So I think that gets solved over time because as these institutions make Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies available, they now have some type of responsibility, and they have massively previously built teams to push out research and information, and that will eventually trickle down to the average person.
Let me pose this though. I love playing devil's advocate. So this is great news. Point blank, BlackRock, largest asset manager in the world, moving into crypto in this way. Fine, cool. The question is, what's the actual impact? Here's a couple of the things that I'm considering. The first thing that I'm considering is how long it's going to take to actually allocate any assets, and that's going to be not overnight. Get to that in a second.
Right.
The second thing is BlackRock has all this money, but whose money do they have?
It's individuals. It's
right.
Institutions.
It's individuals.
It's a giant collection.
A lot of unions, a lot of
so
a lot of everything.
They got a lot of everything.
Pensions, right.
But they don't have poor people's money. They don't have middle class people's money.
Right.
Not your average American's money. They have the money of, from an individual standpoint, people who have plenty of exposure and access to crypto, plenty of availability to buy it, and many of whom probably already own it. Now, when we're talking about pensions and some of these government funds and money that they hold, that's going to give some unique exposure to this asset class. And so then you start to ask, okay, well, what if BlackRock were to allocate some meaningful percentage of their total AUM to Bitcoin? And there's this YouTuber called Invest Answers or something. He had this kind of crazy model, but I'll share it because it's the only kind of model I've seen someone try to work out. But if they were to allocate 0.5% of their AUM to Bitcoin, which is $50 billion, he puts this arbitrary, or it seems arbitrary, multiplier of 21 on this spend to determine what the impact on the market cap would be, slippage and this sort of stuff, which I disagree with this multiplier, but that's the point. That would have a $1 billion impact on the market cap, which would take Bitcoin's price from where it is today to $98,000. And that's if they do 0.5%. Now, using all that same math, if you go up to 1%, it brings Bitcoin's price to $173,000. If they allocate 5% of their total AUM to Bitcoin, it brings Bitcoin's price up to $773,000. You start to get into that Bitcoin to $1 million meme. Now, that's again according to this. I already gave credit, but it is exciting to think about all that money. But when I think about $50 billion in spend, like the first example, I wonder what kind of impact even that would have, even if it was done relatively quickly, considering Bitcoin has $28 billion worth of daily volume right now, and that's in the bear market. So I think it's great, and I think it's especially great for the subset of clients that BlackRock services. But what's the immediate or even short-term impact on prices of cryptocurrencies? Zero. In my outside of the news pump, outside of the speculative pump that already came.
I agree with you. And the point that I would add is that this type of infrastructure is incredibly important that it's built now in this bear market, because last bear market we had infrastructure built, and where you do see the impact is not now, but during a future bull run. If there is another bull run, which I think we probably all believe, then the infrastructure is already built to onboard, the mania. And so I think that's why it's important. Jared, you should talk a little bit about, give a quick recap on the Slope Wallet hack, talk about your experiences, and that individual that you spoke about.
Yeah, I will. Another day goes by, another hack happens or something crazy. And this is just a little more personal for me as someone who has been hacked, if you will. A hot wallet hack, which is what this was. But, mine was silly. Mine was, essentially I got fished, right? But this was the Slope wallet. I never used Slope. Did you guys ever know about it?
I've never heard of it.
Okay. So Slope Wallet was essentially like a crossover wallet for Solana, meaning that like Phantom and Slope could interact. Like if you had a hot wallet on Phantom, you could connect Slope Wallet, and you could essentially transact on Phantom, like on your Web3 wallet on your browser. You could also connect it to your phone, which was actually a nice idea because you could, hey, I'm on the go, I can trade, and it can actually cross-platform wallet, right? Like on its surface, that's kind of appealing. Because there's been many times in my now 3+ years in crypto where I've been like, shit, when you're out on, doing something and something happens and you want to transact. So a guy that's been in my Telegram room for now years messaged me, and this is a couple days after I heard about this, which would have been last week. And he was like, hey, looking for some psychological advice. I'm not going to say his name. And he's like, yeah, I was the largest victim in that hack. And I was like, what? He said, yeah, when it came out last, whenever it was, he goes, I connected my Phantom wallet to it to check it out, and I never even used it. I literally just connected to it, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It'd be fun to try out. Yeah, this works. And what's interesting, and where I think there's a bit of a philosophical or theoretical question I'm curious to pose to you guys is, I asked him, because he's a veteran. Like, this guy's not new. He's been around for a while. I said, why were you holding so much money in a hot wallet? And he's like, you ever tried to use Ledger on Solana? And I was like, yeah, it sucks. Like, it's brutal. And he's like, yeah, it does. And he's like, I mainly transact on Solana. He loves Solana. And I was like, I know, man. And I used to be that way too until I got hacked. And now I don't transact anywhere, not in a hardware wallet, because I lived that pain and it sucks. And he's like, right. Well, this is what I do. And so I was still on my hot wallet. I connected to Slope. I had the integration, tried it once. I literally never even made a trade. I just went back and forth and I went on about my business. Yes, I'm literally on vacation out of country. This dude, lives not here. He's out of country, and he looks, and literally every penny in his wallet is drained. Every single penny is drained. And he has been obviously in like the victim's room and talking to the team. What effectively happened was, when Phantom connected with the Slope wallet, the mnemonic was stored on a third-party server for Slope in plain text. Yeah. Unencrypted. So anybody who got access to that server just had a list of plain text seed phrases that they could go through and go, okay, let me just put in blah, 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 blah. Let's see what this guy has. Whoop, and just drain everything they have in there. So even though he never transacted on it, he never did anything with it, he connected to it one time, his entire wallet balance was drained. Now, I said to him, look, you got to accept personal responsibility on this. This is part of the way of getting over this, part of the way that I got over it. I was stupid, okay? I clicked a dumb link. I had to accept that myself. So did you, right? Like, you should have had better security practices, and he acknowledges that. I'm like, but at the end of the day, man, like, he did everything right otherwise, but you connected to something, and it was literally server-side seed phrases stored, unencrypted, plain text. I cannot, like, these dudes spoke in Lisbon.
So I think, Jared, one thing that might be helpful for the audience is what could they take away? What could have prevented something like this? Talk through. I think there's two things. Maybe you've got other. I would say one is the hardware wallet, and one is, this is going to be another unpopular opinion, but these types of things don't happen on mainstream exchanges.
Yeah, it should not be unpopular either.
Yeah. So maybe talk about what could someone take away from this? What could they learn? What could they do?
Well, so for protecting yourself, I think even though it's annoying, guys and gals, if you are trading in a decentralized realm, which I do far more than you two, probably far more than most people, unless you're a degen, you have to switch your wallets. You have to switch hardware devices. And if you are transacting on hot wallets, which I do, you move what you need into a hot wallet, into it. So when I say hot wallet, I mean it's not tied to a hardware, not tied to a ledger or a Trezor, right? And then you transact what you need to transact, you move it out. And believe me, guys, it sucks, okay? It's a huge pain in the ass. So on Ethereum, at the height of the market, every time you did that, that was $70, $80, $90, $100 just to protect yourself, okay? And that is not fun. And that's why Ethereum was like, this will, all the haters were like, this will never work. You got to pay a lot. So you have to rotate your wallets. You have to get yourself on hardware wallets. There's a couple guys in my neighborhood that wanted to get into crypto, and they're like, hey, can you teach us? And I was like, yeah, first thing though, if you're not using hardware wallets, I won't teach you anything because it's just not worth it. I went through that pain. So anyway, hardware wallets, rotating, you cannot use the same thing. Really, the other thing I would say, Alan, is anytime if you get into crypto, if you're in the decentralized realm and you connect to a new dApp, which is what that is, right? You're like, hey, I'm going to connect to something new. And it says, do you want to connect your wallet and like give access, authorize? No, you better know exactly what you're doing. It better be vetted like nothing you've ever seen before. Like,
you want to authorize your burner wallets, like in your MetaMask, in your Phantom, or whatever. You have extra like mint wallet, like a lot of the reason, right?
Yes,
NFT minting, but like you have wallets that you move stuff to Jared's point. You do what you need to do. You authorize the contract. You do whatever you need to do. And then even if it's blue chip, bro, I don't care if it's even the most vetted thing ever. It could be a product Coinbase put out.
That's right.
But you authorize
it's always hindsight.
Wallet and then you move it when you're done.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that is important for people to know. Obviously, be careful. In this case, would revoking app permissions had helped at all? I think the answer is no, because once you connected once, it was stored. So whether you revoked it or not, it was stored.
Yeah, for this, and that's why this is so egregious. Like, honestly, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Like Slope, I don't know who these guys are. I know they're public. Obviously, they spoke in Lisbon. They're connected to the Solana Foundation. Like, these guys are absolute fucking idiots. The fact that they would store something in plain text, every penny that they have should be
they stored seeds.
Dude, it was only
of all things they stored.
It was just something.
It was just something.
It's literally the dumbest shit I've ever seen in crypto. Like, I can't imagine. And so now there's a lot of speculation going around. It was an inside job because it was like someone in an internal meeting had been like, yeah, we stored them in plain text over here. Like, all it takes is one intern being like,
yeah.
Okay.
So, so I think we should wrap up on a topic here that I saw this morning. I think this is hot news. I haven't seen this out a ton yet. But I think it has broad appeal from the previous cycle. Dave Portnoy was sued this morning for shilling Safemoon. And so let me set that up very briefly for anyone that wasn't paying attention a year ago or 8 months ago. And then I want to pass it to you guys to end on a question. So Dave Portnoy, very famous internet personality, founder of Barstool Sports, had this mock press conference where it sort of emulated the idea of an athlete choosing where they're going to commit to school. So if you haven't seen this before, you sit in front of a table, you have like 4 different hats in front of you. You're deciding which school you're going to be committing to, and then you put on the hat of the school that you're going to go to. Everyone applauds. And that's how you declare.
Yeah.
Okay. So Dave Portnoy set up a similar situation. He had, I want to say, like 4 or 6 different, like, basically meme coins. Dogecoin, Safemoon, I can't even remember the rest. They're all just jokes, right? And he puts on the Safemoon hat, says that this is my pick. We're going to the moon, etc. He buys $40,000 worth of Safemoon. Safemoon actually is covered in a great video by Coinzilla, I think is the guy's name, or something like that on YouTube. Coffeezilla, thank you. I don't know why I said Coinzilla. Coffeezilla on YouTube did a great job sort of breaking down, did interviews with the team. So if you care to look into that, go watch that video. But just for sake of time, basically the Safemoon team said that some portion of the funds were going towards on-exchange liquidity, and some of them were, but most of them were not. They were being drained by a developer. So that is Safemoon. Ended up being obviously down, 99% now. So Dave Portnoy alleges that he bought $40,000 when he made that announcement. He disclosed that he bought $40,000. He has not sold, he alleges, a single coin. It is now currently worth $2,000. And so his claim is that I should not be sued for this. I made my opinion public. I told you that I bought something. I haven't sold anything. I made no money on this. I've lost tons of money. And so he alleges that he shouldn't be culpable. My question to you both is, should personalities, whether they are anonymous, and that could include, plenty of friends on crypto Twitter, celebrities, should someone be held culpable for an opinion or an investment decision that they have made?
There's rules for this already. This is very, very, very something that I spent years shilling coins that I liked. That's the whole, you're a thought leader in the crypto space. What do you think people want to hear about? Things that you're interested in. Solana at $1, Serum at 50 cents, the fucking Dragon Chain ICO. Like, at the end of the day, we're all living in this world and we're allowed and protected to speak about it. However, there are rules. Now, Dave Portnoy can be sued for anything. If he's upset that he got sued, I mean, he probably gets sued all the time. I don't think he'll be found liable unless he broke the rules. The rules are simple. First of all, we're talking about unregistered securities here, first of all, because if we're not, then these rules don't apply. And I think you should always operate with the rule of thumb that everything in crypto, if you're an influencer or a thought leader or someone who people listen to, is an unregistered security. That's how you should operate. If so, were you paid to shill the coin? Do you have a bag of said coin? If either of those two things are true, it must be disclosed. So if you're one of our many friends on crypto Twitter and you're shilling a coin, I do believe you have a responsibility to disclose if you've been paid to share that opinion or if you have financial incentive. In the example you just gave, Alan, where it sounded like Dave Portnoy bought that $40,000 after he put the hat on, there's nothing to even disclose. If he wants to go, Jim Cramer does it on CNBC every single day. Single day with registered securities in a protected space, and all the appropriate disclosures are there. So that's my opinion on it. The rules are in place. I believe those rules are fair and they should be in place, and I think they're very easy to follow.
Anything to add, Jared?
Ever tell you guys? I'm in a trading group with Jim Cramer. Did I ever tell you guys that?
That's right.
What you mean? You paid for his paid group?
You're just counter trading him?
No, he pays to be in this group that I contribute to. Anyway, no, I couldn't agree more. Obviously, I have talked about a ton of stuff too. A ton of stuff I've become internet famous for on Twitter. Obviously, Juno being the most recent one, but a ton along the way. Anybody who clicks buy on anything, I even think the disclosure part. Obviously, we live in America, so you have to do it. I even think that shouldn't even be required. I know you have to; those are the rules, and so we'll abide by them. But the thing is, I've never been paid for anything, and so I don't really care. And every time I own something, I always say that I own something, so I don't really give a shit. But the thing is, like, I am a huge fan of personal responsibility. Nobody forced you to do anything. Nobody forced that guy to buy anything. Dave Portnoy did not guarantee returns. He wasn't like, hey, buy Safemoon. It's going to go up 10x or your money back, right? Like, you had to click buy. He had to put money. The guy put in like $70,000 and like it's now he like sold some and the rest is worth like $8. Like I read the lawsuit, and it's like, man, that was your call. Okay, that was your call to do that. Have some personal responsibility. You're not getting bailed out on this. Obviously, what Joel said is true. We live in America. Those are the rules you have to abide by. Just assume they're all unregistered securities. I completely agree with that because this is where we live. I don't even think you should have to do that, but it is what it is. And like, it's just funny because I think you're going to see this. There's going to be coverage on it. It is a news story because it's Dave Portnoy and like this dude gets sued for walking down the street wrong. But like, it's just so ridiculous.
And so I would add that I agree with more of what Joel said. But what I want to say, or what I would add, is that I think you're right, Jared. He's just getting sued because he's, the probably the most famous person that talked about it. And so this individual, if you said that they invested 70 and now it's worth 8 or something like that, there's a pretty solid chance that they settle because it's expensive. Well, you sued the wrong person to settle with, right? Like Dave Portnoy is going to fight this and make a ton of money off of it now because he's got a week's worth of content now. But in most cases, someone is going to settle with you over something like this, especially if they're very well known.
If they did something wrong,
I think they'll settle either way because the fight is going to cost, let's say, $250K. Like, I'll pay you $50K, go away. The guy gets the Safemoon money back. That's my guess is his reason for doing so. But with that, Jared, take us out.
Yeah, no, this was fun, guys. Joel, I'm glad you made it, man. Hopefully, we'll keep recording at the same time. You guys can block your schedules, and we can keep on running. 3 heads are better than 2, as they say. I will get this edited and out soon. We can all get to the shilling, but
I'm gonna wear my glasses next time, so then we'll really hit it.
That'd be great. 3 beards,
same haircut.
All right. I'm gonna do the same outro. All right, let me do the outro and we'll get out of here. So, thank you, fellas. This has been episode 3 of the Crypto Parabellum podcast with our third co-host, Joel Birch, Jared Phillips, Alan Eschweiler. I will see you guys next week.
Cheers.
See you.